This video is sponsored by TrueFire. Over 2 million guitar players worldwide improve their playing using TrueFire's online lesson systems. Learn, practice, and play with TrueFire. Hi, this is Keith Williams. Welcome to 5 Watt World, where I'm interested in helping you get the most music from the least gear. Between 1954 and 1960, when the Les Paul would be changed to the SG body style, more Juniors were sold than any other model. If you include the TV model, the Gibson Company records show that no less than 21,000 Junior-style guitars were sold during this period. And while the original Junior target audience was beginners, over time the guitars would be snapped up by garage, alternative, and punk musicians. You can't have a channel with the tagline, "The most music from the least gear," without people writing to you and preaching the merits of one-pickup guitars. The eternal question of whether you actually need anything more than an Esquire or a Junior, just one good amp, and nothing in between but a coily cable, is always on the table. And such may be the absolute floor of complexity in using an electric guitar. Juniors remind me of a famous Einstein quote: "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler." The first half of this is obvious, but the elusive no simpler? Certainly the no simpler is talking about a Junior. What is simpler than a flat-top slab of wood, a single glorious but ultimately uncomplicated pickup, and only enough electronics to transmit signal from fingers to amplifier? So if, like me, and you've always wondered at the magic that lies in these seemingly simple guitars, magic that has drawn so many great players to them, then sit back, because this is the 5 Watt World short history of the Gibson Les Paul Junior. If you enjoy our videos, take a minute to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when we put out new videos. And if you've already subscribed, swing by the store to grab a t-shirt or a hoodie to support what we're doing here. And if you don't need another hoodie, but want to become a bigger part of 5 Watt World, think about becoming a friend of 5 Watt. The links are in the description. And in response to requests, I've also added a tip jar as well. When Gibson launched the Les Paul in 1952, they were already talking about expanding the line, and in 1954, talk turned into action. That year, they launched both the upscale custom and their student model, the Junior. Gibson set a target price of $99, which they considered to be in the realm of student instrument at the time. To meet that price point, they simplified each aspect of the basic Les Paul formula. They started with the wood. The guitars would still have a mahogany body and neck, but instead of the carved top and maple cap of the gold top, this would be a flat-topped slab body. Since Brazilian rosewood was neither endangered nor restricted, the price was reasonable enough, and Gibson was able to continue using their blanks. But they left the fingerboard unbound and used simple white dot markers. It was finished in a brown to yellow burst, the sort of finish that Gibson had been using for decades and could easily apply. And instead of the mother-of-pearl logo on the headstock, the Junior was given a simple, gold-toned Gibson decal, along with an equally simple Les Paul Junior painted script. Less expensive, Kluson tuners with white plastic buttons were used rather than the more ornate tulips on the standard model. The chunky neck joined the body at the 17th fret, the single cutaway giving you access to the top of the 22-fret neck with a small stretch over the top. A black plastic pickguard was attached directly to the top with just 3 screws. And the bridge was the same wraparound bridge being used on the gold top by that point. The TV model was launched later that same year as a 3/4 scale instrument. The scale length was 22 5/8 inches compared to the typical Gibson scale length of 24 3/4 inches for the Junior, the same as the gold tops. Some of these early TV models and some of the first Juniors were made with maple bodies. By 1955, the TV model was being offered in the full scale as well, and had moved to being an alternate color choice to the Sunburst Junior. It's hotly debated where the TV name came from, but it's generally believed that the color was picked as it would show up well on television due to the color response of the black and white programs of the time. Guitar historian Dave Hunter points out that it's believed by some that the early Fender guitars were similarly colored for the same reason, and certainly Gibson was playing a little bit of catch-up in the solid body guitar world at the time, and so this too seems plausible. However, if somebody was big enough at that point to be on television in the 1950s, they probably could have afforded a more expensive guitar. We also know that a lot of mid-century modern furniture was built in this same pale color, so the truth might be a combination of many factors, leading to the pale cream to yellow color. The beating heart of the Junior is the single P90 pickup, an evolution of an earlier pickup named the P13. The P90 was designed by Walt Fuller and went into regular production at Gibson in 1947. And after the short heyday of the Charlie Christian pickup, the P90 became the pickup style on the Gibson Electrics and would be there until the PAF humbucker appeared in '57. Jazz and country players in the 40s and 50s, classic blues, rock and rollers, and rockabilly in the 50s and 60s, and full-on rock gods in the 60s and 70s could all be seen with guitars equipped with P90s. As Dave Hunter reminds us, the P90 is an incredibly versatile pickup, given that it was originally developed when Ellington and Sinatra were topping the charts, only to find the tones of rock when used by Pete Townshend and Leslie West. And when Clapton recorded the Beano record with his 59 PAF-equipped burst and Marshall combo, he was really trying to channel the biting tones that Freddie King had achieved on Let's Hide Away and Dance Away. On that record, King was playing his 54 Gold Top, fitted with P90s. Plus, Gibson's main efforts with the PAF were to reduce hum, not fundamentally change the sound of their instruments. Had the need for hum canceling not existed, P90s might have been the primary pickup for a very long time. While used on the student-level juniors, recall that the P90 was also still the pickup on the Gold Top Les Pauls in '54 at the launch of the junior model. But it was also on all the high-end jazz boxes being built by Gibson in the '50s too. But unlike the Les Paul and fat body guitars, the P90 would continue to power the juniors after the PAF appeared, throughout their entire history. Essentially, a large single-coil pickup. Under the soap bar or dog ear cover, you'll find a wide coil wrapped with approximately 10,000 turns of enameled 42-gauge wire. Beneath that bobbin, there are two sand-cast Alnico bar magnets placed on each side of a steel bar through which the pole pieces pass. The type of Alnico varied. Throbak pickup founder John Gundry told Guitarist magazine that Alnico 4, 5, and 2 were used. He added, like many things in the vintage world, they weren't consistent. He went on to say he's seen a pattern of Alnico 4s in the bridge and an Alnico 2 in the neck of many of the vintage guitars. The design passes the magnetism from the bar magnets to the poles, creating a much wider magnetic window than other single-coil designs like we'd find, say, on a Fender guitar, which contributes to the warmer and fatter Gibson tone. You might wrongly assume that being a single coil, it wouldn't drive the amp as hard as a humbucker. But with 10,000 turns, it has about the same amount of wire as a PAF-style humbucker, though not split between the two coils, and that both pickup types have about the same DC resistance, in the range of 7.5 to 8.5 K. Like their later PAF brothers, each vintage pickup is slightly different due to the winding machines not having automatic shutoffs. Instead, they had a counter and relied on the attention span of the operator to stop the machine, and it frequently went past the 10,000 turn spec. Hence the range of resistance and the unique personality of each vintage P90. To outline the differences in P90s, Throbak offers three distinct styles: a 52-54 set, a 55-56 set, and a set they call the Special. The pickups use different resistance values and Alnico magnet types along with different magnet lengths. Gundry adds that setting up a P90 is very different from a Fender-style single coil. He advises getting the pickup as close to the strings as possible. This is because a P90 doesn't have as much magnetic pull as a Fender pickup and won't cause the same interference issues a Stratocaster pickup might. This is sort of counterintuitive as the pickup looks much larger, but if Gundry suggests it, it's because he's tested it thoroughly. He adds that cleaned up, a P90 often gets more acoustic-like tone from the added microphonics due to the pickup not being potted, dipped in wax or lacquer in other words. Finally, as they're screwed directly to the guitar body, in both the soap bar and dog ear designs, more vibrations from the guitar body are being transferred to the pickup than in a PAF in a mounting ring. Gibson used braided 2-coil output wire on the underside of the metal baseplate. The simple volume and tone controls were most often a pair of 500K Central Lab pots, but quite a few guitars came through with 250K tone pots as well, which would change the characteristics by cutting back some frequencies. There was a .022 microfarad Sprague Black Beauty capacitor, often referred to as a bumblebee. Which famous user of a single-cut junior jumps to mind for you likely depends on when you started playing guitar. If that happened to be in the 90s, then Green Day's frontman Billy Joe Armstrong would certainly loom large. He's gone on to do so many signature junior-style guitars with Gibson that it almost supersedes his use of his original 56 Junior, nicknamed Floyd. He was also frequently seen with a TV yellow double cut. His current signature Junior sports a single humbucking pickup, but many previous incarnations carried a model-correct P90. In the decade following, country artist Keith Urban was there, using a well-worn 57 Junior. If you're more my age and cut your teeth on rock in the late 70s and early 80s, then Mick Ralphs with Mott the Hoople would have been on your list. Or perhaps Lonesome Dave Peverett of the band Foghat, their Fool for the City, playing loudly from the overpriced cassette deck in my first car. And in the 70s, post-Beatles world, John Lennon was often seen playing a Junior modified to carry a Charlie Christian pickup in the neck. 70s arena rock legends 38 Special could be seen with a wide variety of Juniors in the hands of guitarists Donnie Van Zant, Donnie Barnes, and Jeff Carlisi. You can see two of them, along with typical early 80s questionable fashion choices and a killer guitar solo on the video Caught Up in You. Steve Howe of Yes made extensive use of a Les Paul Jr. on Topographical Oceans. He stated in interviews that while the first half was mostly an ES-345, the second half's raucous tones are provided by a Junior. Dave Bryson of Counting Crows famously acquired a 56 Junior around the time the band released their second album, the double platinum Recovering the Satellites. Charlie Starr of Atlanta's country rock heroes Blackberry Smoke can often be seen with various Juniors, including several vintage ones. Recently, Neil Young has said in interviews that his first guitar was a Junior, and he's begun using them again live. Carcass guitarist Bill Steer frequently chooses Les Paul Juniors for side projects, such as Gentleman's Pistols, and has even been seen with both P90 and humbucker-equipped ones in his extreme metal day job. Leslie West of the band Mountain, whose records like Climbing were some of the spiritual forefathers of the genre that would ultimately come to be known as Doom, showed us on Mississippi Queen just what a Junior was for. West's guitar was actually a 54, taking the first year of the model to what some believe the height of its use of all time. The early single-cut form of the Junior persisted until 1958. A year sometimes described as the year of the double cut at Gibson, as it included the launch of the ES-335 family of guitars as well. The Junior and TV guitars got the double cut treatment during '59. The neck now joined the body at the end of the fingerboard, giving the player unprecedented access to the 22 frets. This access came at the cost of a rather fragile neck joint, and session guitarist Steve Hunter famously retired his '59 double cut after, quote, breaking the neck all the time, end quote. The Juniors also took on the new cherry finish that first appeared in '58. Using the same red pore filler and red anodyne dye used on the back of the Les Paul Burst guitars launched that year. The color tends to fade to a reddish brown. Often today in the reissues, you'll see a current color listed as faded cherry or vintage cherry. And by this, they generally mean the color of an original late 50s cherry with 60 years of aging. Along with the new cherry finish, they continued to build the alternative TV finish. Note that the top horn comes slightly forward of the lower horn, providing that signature shape. The 3/4 short scale model persisted during this time as well, with its unique pickguard and bridge pushed back far in the body, which must make it very interesting for playing for palm muting. These rounded, double-cut body guitars were actually named SG, standing for solid guitar, before the introduction of the pointy body style we'll see arrive in '61. An even more budget version of single pickup and single cut guitars, likely launched due to the success of the Junior, was the Melody Maker, as made famous by Joan Jett. Launched in '59, it initially had a thinner single cut mahogany body, smaller headstock, downgraded tuners, and a different pickup, though eventually offered in a two pickup version. At its outset, it looked like the poorer student version of the student model Junior. It too would move to a modified double cutaway style for '64 and '65, but would retain its recognizable straight-sided headstock. R&B and funk legend Bobby Womack played a double cut Junior. Mick Jones of The Clash used a 1959 cherry double cut in the late '70s. Johnny Thunders and Sylvian of the New York Dolls brought double cut Juniors into the public eye in the punk movement in the late '70s. Steve Hunter played his '59 Junior on the intro to Lou Reed's Sweet Jane, and Joan Jett played modified Melody Makers throughout.
So here we have a 1959 Les Paul Junior that is actually on a loan to me from Robin Ford. I have to send it back to him, so thank you, Robin. So check it out. First thing, the beauty of a P90. When I'm going to just crank up my super lead, I'm going to have a pretty gainy sound on purpose. Now it's going to roll my volume knob down a little bit. Okay, roll it back a little more. So you get really clean sounds by just rolling it back, and P90s are really sensitive that way. So now, this is the really cool thing. I'm going to roll back my tone knob, darken it up, right? A little more up. And all the way up. That reacts the way you think it would, but here's the really cool thing about a P90 with 50s wiring. Check this out. I'm going to roll my volume back a little bit. I'm going to roll my tone back. See how clean everything gets? And almost more sparkly. So the interesting thing, which is really weird, is when I roll the volume knob back and roll the tone knob back, it actually doesn't get darker. It gets a little more scooped and a little more high, so it sounds almost acoustic-like. You can really mess with this. All out of one guitar and one pickup. And that is the beauty of a Junior.
As I stated earlier, the Junior and TV models sold very well from their introduction. But just as Gibson would move away from building burst Les Pauls, so too did they morph the Junior to the new SG shape in '61. Actually, early in '61, some of the double-cut style Juniors were still produced, but they soon transitioned to the new thinner and pointier SG style. Launched at the NAMM show at the Palmer House in Chicago along with a new style Les Paul Standard and Les Paul Customs, there were corresponding Les Paul Junior, Junior 3/4, and SG TV guitars. The summer '61 price list had the models listed for the same price of just $142.50. For comparison, a Les Paul Standard was $265 and the Custom was $395. The new pointy guitars remained a solid piece of mahogany that Gibson was then sourcing from British Honduras, now Belize, sculpted into a new thinner body with two asymmetrical horns and a body bevel of around 22 degrees. The necks were thinner as well. The fingerboards had dot markers and, as before, were made of unbound Brazilian rosewood. They continued on with the cherry finish that they'd moved to in '58, and the TV finishes persisted as well. Turning again to Throbak founder John Gundry, he tells us that in about '60, the magnets of the P90s were shortened, like the ones in the PAFs. The '50s magnets were 2.5 inches, but they were shortened by 1/8 of an inch in '60, and Gundry believes that this gives the pickup a slightly more aggressive sound. Also around '65 or '66, they moved to using poly-coated wire that really changes the sound since it has a different overall resistance. The simple tone control layout and values continued on in this new body style. Just at the end of '63, Gibson and Les Paul parted ways when his endorsement contract ran out and his name was dropped from all the SG-style guitars. In September of '64, Gibson's price list showed the SG TV and SG Juniors at $165. In 1965, there was a move from the 1 11/16 inch neck width down to 1 9/16. There are many stories about why this happened, but clearly from their actions, Gibson believed that players preferred necks that were thinner, both in width and depth at the time. In '66, Gibson shifted to a larger pickguard for all the SG guitars, and this included the Junior. Gone was the dog-eared pickup, and the pickup was now mounted to the pickguard. It was also around this time that Gibson moved from nickel to chrome plating on all the metal parts. Along with the new pickguard, we also see Juniors get the new short vibrola tremolo as well, though you can also see it on guitars from '65. But there were many with the simple wraparound tailpiece still made. In '66, the Melody Maker was reworked with the new SG body style. The guitars sported enclosed single-coil pickups that greatly resembled a Fender pickup. The October '66 price list had the single pickup Melody Maker in both scale lengths for $149.50, which was close to the Junior's price at the time of $169.50. Various SG-style melody makers would stay in the catalog until 1970. And with those last tweaks, the Junior was discontinued in 1971. The single-cut Junior would not be reissued until 2001. Since then, they've offered a variety of different models, alternately tweaking them either to save on costs or to harken back to a vintage feature. The SG-style Junior would come back into production in 1999-2001, and then again on and off from 2011 until the present, with a major relaunch in 2019 with their Originals collection. I'll admit that when the Custom Shop launched the Brian May 62 Junior, I was sorely tempted. But there's nothing like Custom Shop prices to help me on my quest for the least gear. The power of the Junior style can be seen in that it's a popular guitar for boutique builders to offer a take on. Collings and Neggs both make a reasonable number of their 290 and Kanai J models, both at a level of quality matching not the guitar's original student origins, but at a state-of-the-art current production levels. I've partnered with TrueFire because I've used them for over a decade, and my playing always improves when I put in the time of their lessons. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or professional level player, TrueFire has lessons to inspire and advance your playing. As you know, I always promote spending money on lessons before new gear. I really like TrueFire, and I think if you give them a shot, you'll like them too. Get 25% off courses using the promo code 5watt25, or like I have for many years, sign up for the All Access Pass to use the entire TrueFire catalog. You can sample anything in the catalog with the All Access Pass and see where the muse takes you. Signing up for an All Access Pass helps support the channel, which is a bonus. I love their tagline, Learn, Practice, and Play with TrueFire. I'd like to thank TrueFire for partnering with me and sponsoring this video. A single pickup bolted to a slab of wood, a cable, and an amp. What could be more music from the least gear than that? It's a marvel the variety of tones available from these guitars, and hopefully you can see why so many artists find that they can play whole shows with them. There's something special in the way they clean up and the subtle natural compression in the high end. It's why today, even though bursts may get the big money, if you see a killer vintage Gibson in a shop, given the numbers built, it's more likely to be a humble Junior. I'm not going to encourage anyone to buy another guitar, but I think we all owe it to ourselves to put on the bridge pickup and see how far we can get. Clearly, the story of the Junior shows that's quite a ways. If I missed your favorite part of the Les Paul Junior story, please put it in the comments for everyone to enjoy. I know from experience that I can count on you. First, I need to thank Jeff McErlain for playing Robin Ford's 59 Double Cut Junior in the video. Looking ahead to this project at the end of last year, I asked him whether he had access to a Junior, and he said he had just boxed one up to ship back to Robin. I begged him to pull it out and put off the shipping for a couple of days so we could all enjoy his playing of it first. As always, the results speak for themselves. Check out Jeff's YouTube channel and his TrueFire courses, linked via his website in the description. I once again need to thank Carter Vintage for collaborating with me and allowing me to use the playing clips of Joey Landreth and Jared James Nichols playing some sweet vintage Juniors that have come through their doors. I'm overdue for a trip to Nashville, and Carter Vintage is becoming something of a vintage mecca for guitar nerds like me. I need to thank my script editor, Perry McManus, one of the earliest and clearly most important citizens of 5-Watt World. I used 3 books in particular when working up this history. The Gibson Les Paul by Dave Hunter, the Les Paul Guitar Book by Tony Bacon, and the SG Guitar Book by Tony Bacon. All the books are linked in the description. I need to thank the guys at Guitarist Magazines for their interview with Throbak's John Gundry on P90 pickups through the years. I also need to thank Dave Hunter for his article on P90s, Gibson's Growling Glory, 70 Years of P90 Tone. It was a big help for putting the pickups in their historical context. I've linked both articles here. I need to thank all of you that stopped by the store and bought a t-shirt, a hat, or the Stomp preset pack. The merchandise sales go a long way to keeping the channel going. And finally, I need to thank the friends of 5-Watt. These guys go beyond the merch in support of 5-Watt World, and I appreciate every one of them being along for the ride. If you enjoyed this short history of the Les Paul Junior, hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that too. Thanks for watching. Until next time, thanks for being a part of the 5-Watt World.